Hello and welcome back. We're going to spend our time today on hearing our inner teacher, hearing and listening to our inner teacher, the voice for God. It's so important. It's the crux of what we're doing here in our practice with A Course in Miracles, is learning to hear and to listen to our inner teacher, to follow our inner teacher's guidance, suggestions, guidance, to follow our inner teacher's lead. If you've gathered at some point on the spiritual path that it is indeed about becoming an ultimate follower, yeah, follow your inner teacher. That's what Jesus did. He followed the Holy Spirit and woke up. And he's here right now to teach us how to do the same, exactly as he did. It's very, very important because when we identify as an ego, as an individual human being, defining and defending all of our fictitious personal territory, because we've made it all up, we lose sight of truth. We get distracted and pulled away, carried away into our drama, into the drama that is the world that we appear to inhabit. So perhaps as you go through these materials in this course, or any other spiritual tradition for that matter, perhaps you're taking some comfort in knowing, a deep inner knowing that you have, that there's something more to it than simply the image that appears when you stand in front of a mirror. There's more to it than that. And you know it, or you would not be interested in spirituality at all. You wouldn't be. So I thank you for your dedication and commitment to your practice, whatever that may look like. And I invite you to go further and go deeper today. This is what I invite you to do, is watch this video all the way through and let your inner teacher speak to you. When something lands for you, it's not Reverend Tomas Garza that's speaking to you. Not at all. It's your inner teacher that's speaking to you. So each and every one of us would do well to hear and listen to its guidance. So here in chapter 5, section 3 of the text, the guide, it's the guide to salvation. We're told here in paragraph 4 that the voice for God, the voice of the Holy Spirit, is weak in us. We don't hear it on a constant basis. And all we have to do is take 1 minute and look around at our busy lives and realize, yeah, well, that's definitely going on, isn't it? That's true. That's the case. We don't always hear the voice for God when we're carried away in all of our mad distractions, which we call daily life. And this is not to say don't attend to those things that need attention, like paying the light bill, the rent, the mortgage, feeding the physical organism, which, while not you, is your communication device to reach the people whom you're supposed to reach in this lifetime, whom only you will reach best, not me, not someone else, you. Right? There are certain things that we attend to, but we do not have to believe in the reality of them. They're not real. We don't have to accord them reality. We don't have to accord this any shred of reality at all. It's mind training, and healing is done at the level of the mind. The Holy Spirit, your inner teacher, is part of your mind. Now, how can we say that it's weak? Well, it's not weak in itself. It's made weak in our experience by our unwillingness to listen. Adult stuff, right? Spirituality, as I often say, is an adult endeavor. It's for grown-ups because it's about taking responsibility for our own thoughts. And if we don't hear the voice for God often and clearly, it's because we're unwilling to hear it. Really. And although the ego may rail against that statement, it's where we find ourselves. The voice is the voice for God. It's an extremely powerful voice, but we have to hear it and listen to it. That's a decision that we make, to not only hear, but also to listen to our inner teacher. The Holy Spirit serves a very important function here. It undoes what the ego has made, not by bludgeoning the ego or putting it to the sword or the guillotine, kicking it in the face, clobbering it in any way. It doesn't kill or make an opponent of the ego. It works on the ego's terms, with the ego's symbolism, to undo it. This is why our inner teacher is so critically important to us, because our inner teacher serves as a mediator. And this is in paragraph 7 here of this section, something that Jesus describes to us. So it's another way to look at the Holy Spirit, which of course goes by many names: voice for God, universal inspiration, the answer with a capital A, among others. Now also the mediator between thought systems, the thought system, its own thought system of the Holy Spirit, and the thought system of the ego. It mediates between these two worlds. That's part of its function here. And the way that this works is the ego doesn't know anything, and it interprets. It assumes that it's on its own, a self-sustaining survival unit, and projects all of its own fear onto other independently existing self-sustaining survival units. You think you're an ego, and therefore you attribute an ego to everyone else, thinking that they couldn't help but feel the same way about life as you, i.e., that they're on their own. Everyone for themselves, right? That's the way that the ego perceives everything. So the Holy Spirit sees all of this. It does. It sees all of it, the interpretations of the ego and the knowledge of spirit, the knowledge of who we are, one with God. The Holy Spirit is in our mind. It's this part of our mind that's calm and tranquil and is always in communication with God, because it's one with God. Therefore, it's always in communication with God. This is a part of our mind that's always in communication with God. Why? We're one with God. Remember yesterday's math test? the answer is 1, the only number that you ever even need to think about with this course. This part of our mind is calm. It's a steady presence, a joyous presence. Meanwhile, another part of our mind that we assume to be the entire thing is frantic. That's the ego, running around in circles like a dog, chasing its tail and exhausting itself, and never thinking to wonder why it's so exhausted until it's had enough. And an intuitive hit may come, or one may hear a voice speaking of truth, of another way of being, something beyond the ordinary day-to-day round of suffering. Because even if we find ourselves in a position of privilege in this lifetime, with a lot of money, with social status, with nice things, a nice fancy roof over our head, what we consider in the world to be comfortable, even if that's the case, it doesn't last. It's not permanent. Why? It's of this world, and this world is not permanent because it is not real. The central teaching, Jesus tells us in A Course in Miracles, the central teaching of this course is that there is no world. So naturally, the ego is going to resist that. You may be resisting that statement right now. And if it's the first time that you're encountering this resistance, it's likely to not be the last. Right? So, food for thought as you go forth and forgive the Son of God, as you go forth in your own walk, in your own journey spiritually. What has you on this journey in the first place? Right? We all come to this path with our own apparently unique experiences, things that we've experienced in this lifetime, perhaps others, but at least in this lifetime, that have us looking for a better way. There's something deep within us that knows that there's more to it than just what meets the body's eyes. And there is. We know this. You know this, or you would not be here. I promise you, you wouldn't be watching this when there's so much other content out there on YouTube. Content that's shinier, that's louder. Well, there's a lot that's louder, isn't there? Right? That's sexier, brighter, right? That invites you to, yeah, just stay where you are. Sure, you're an ego, an individual self-sustaining survival unit. Watch this instead, right? But you're not doing that, are you? Why is that? It's an interesting question, isn't it? Because we all have a moment, right, that we can point to, it seems, or it's a deep inner knowing that maybe you've always had, that it's just time for you to go home, to awaken. So the Holy Spirit, your inner teacher, looks beyond all of the symbology of the world, all of the language, all of our labels, all of the things that the ego has made in its confusion, looks beyond all of this to eternity, looks beyond space and time themselves to what's eternal. And what is eternal in us, well, it's our oneness as spirit, as the Son of God, as the thought of God, the extension of God. Love extends itself and only itself. Therefore, we are perfect love. What we call the spiritual path is our removing the barriers to our awareness of this. That's all. And that's what it is removing our barriers to our awareness of love, of truth, of love's presence, of who we are as one with God. We are the Son of God. So, how do we make this voice stronger? Well, we share it. We share the Holy Spirit. We give it away. That makes it stronger in our minds, more audible, more perceptible in our minds. It makes us more receptive to its guidance when we share it, when we extend love, when we extend the miracle to our brother, when we forgive. Then we begin to hear the voice for God. Now, will you hear an audible voice in your own language? Maybe, maybe not. It doesn't always come across that way. It can be a deep inner knowing, an intuitive hit. It could be something that you read or that you see in the world that reminds you of truth. There are many ways of communication. It could be something that someone else says, and perhaps it's something that I've said on this very video that reminds you of the truth of who you are. So we must decide to hear our inner teacher and then listen to our inner teacher. And then the next step, listen and act on our inner teacher's guidance. Continue to forgive. Continue to learn this course. And what's the end result of that? Awakening. When? Who knows? You really don't know, right? I don't know. Who knows when awakening will dawn? Maybe it will be in 15 minutes for you, and perhaps not. All we have control of is right now, and the decision, the one and only decision that we have in the present moment between God or the ego, between love or fear, light or dark, the thought system of the Holy Spirit or the thought system of the ego, truth or illusion, self with a capital S, self with a lowercase s. However you define and describe and name this choice, is the choice that we have in the present moment. And how beautiful that you have that choice right now. It doesn't make any difference what you decided 5 minutes ago. It's gone. Decide again right now. Change your mind. This is a course in changing your mind. So please allow your inner teacher to speak to you and then to work through you as you share your inner teacher with every living thing. So, so important. All right. Thank you, as always, for tuning in and for joining me here. I welcome your comments and questions. So if you have them, please feel free to leave them. There is absolutely no such thing as a question that's too basic or dumb or too beginner-ish. Those are the best questions. They are, because even people that have been practicing this material for 30 years can stand to hear a supposedly basic answer one more time. That may be the time that someone who's got 30 years of experience with this material really gets it. You never know. You don't know unless you put it out there, and you could be positively influencing the trajectory of people that you'll never meet on the other side of the world, because this is an international audience. So any questions related to this course or spirituality in general are more than welcome. So I invite them. I also invite you to subscribe. The subscription button's right here. It's the red arrow. And these videos appear several times a week. On weekends here, typically on a Saturday, but this week on a Sunday, due to scheduling conflicts, I have a live stream that I've begun over on my Patreon page, and the link to that is in my bio here on YouTube. So if you're interested in a longer session with live Q&A, we're able to go into more depth on these topics than in just a typical 15 to 20-minute video. So I invite you to check that out. Thank you for tuning in, and I will talk to all of you very soon.